So there are a lot of things, again, I learned, and it worked out for the better. So let me start with some of the negatives. That way we can leave off on the positive note. Being raised with this kind of poverty caused me to have trouble to get rid of things. And I've noticed this a lot. People who grow up in poverty have a fear of poverty as they grow up, and they don't want to get rid of anything. Like, what if this comes in handy? What if I need this someday? There's always a lot more what ifs, and it seems like the people who have that sort of a background have more potential to end up hoarding things they shouldn't. And I definitely do this myself. Like I said, with being cold, I have a problem with keeping too many blankets. I don't want my kids to have to grow up with that. And I know that we have the money to pay bills, and I know that we have, no problem being able to provide for that sort of thing, but I still have this like fear driven in my head of being cold or not being able to stay warm enough and not being able to keep my kids warm enough. And so we end up with more than we should, and I should probably get rid of some of them. But when I try to purge that kind of stuff, it's really hard to do. So there's one sort of negative that I've noticed from having grown up in poverty. The other thing would be we can have too much other things, like the clothes. Remember how I mentioned I didn't always have a lot of clothes? Well, nowadays, I noticed, especially in my earlier adulthood, I had more problems wanting to buy clothes all the time. Now, I wasn't going out to like expensive stores getting them. Just any was good enough for me. Just have a lot of them. That way I don't have to rewear stuff if I don't want to, or if they're dirty. I don't want to have to be forced to wear dirty clothes somewhere, I don't want to be seen in public like that. Stuff like that. So I have lots and lots of clothes, and I have trouble getting rid of them too. So yeah, it's definitely given me a fear of having to live in poverty again. But that can also be a good thing. That has also done some good things for me in my life. So I would say it's caused me to be more motivated. It's caused me to want to be a hard worker. If I work really hard, I can keep myself out of poverty. It's caused me to want to be responsible. Like, if I spend all my money is gone. And if we are, broke, that's sort of a dangerous place to be, because if you have something that you need and you don't have the ability to get it, then there's desperation. And so there's sell something you have. What if you don't have anything, and I've seen some people make some fairly bad decisions because they couldn't really, do anything otherwise. Hopefully you know what I mean. And I don't want to be there. I don't ever want to go there. So I also have become obsessed with making good decisions, because I'm afraid that we're all just one bad decision away from utter catastrophe in our lives. So every decision I try to make as good of a decision as we can, whether it be small stuff, making good decisions on, our groceries and our food and whatever else, our houses and things, obviously all the way up to the bigger ones. So yeah, it's made me really make sure that we're going to think everything through as much as we possibly can, go through all the different scenarios of what could happen, or, just different things, and make sure that we're making the best decisions possible, which is a little bit of a problem because I don't need to obsess for 2 weeks over the decision on what toaster we should buy. Yeah, so good but bad on that one. Let's see. Oh, this is the main thing that this did for me in my life. It made me want to scheme up a way, not scheme, I don't know how to make this, brainstorm a way to make sure that we could keep ourselves out of poverty. A lot of people will say it's college. You got to go to college. As long as you have a good education, you'll be able to get a job and you'll always be able to provide for yourself. I didn't see that as being the case, because I had seen many people go through college and then end up with student loans, and then not going to doing the job of what they went to college for, and having all those student loans end up being worse off than if they wouldn't have gone at all. So I didn't really see an education as being the right thing, for us. Plus, there's been people who have an education, but then they end up sick, or they end up with a disability or something like that. How do you use that if you have, severe pain? How do you get out of bed every day and make it to this job to always make sure you can provide for yourself when you don't have that kind of health? I just saw some different scenarios where it didn't seem like college was the golden ticket for us. So I actually came up with a long time ago, way before I was married or met my husband. I found buying a house and paying it off in full as being my golden ticket. I wanted a house. I wanted a house and I wanted it to be paid off. Because even if we lose our job and you live in a paid off house, fine. Unemployment may not be as much, but you can live on that. Maybe you can, just cut back on how much you spend, cut back to only one car. That, to me, having rent or a mortgage and then being laid off or having some kind of a health problem happen or who knows what, divorced and having only one income, having to pay, that sort of monthly expense is the difference between being able to make it and not being able to make it. And even if we ended up encountering some sort of horrible poverty again, it's better to be eating macaroni and cheese for dinner in a house that you have paid off than it is under a bridge or in a park, on a bench. So that is what I saw as my ticket, the way that I can make sure that we could always make it. We can pay the bills a lot easier if there is no mortgage. And so, again, that's why I have been doing videos on how to buy a house, because I really do believe that real estate is one of the most important investments that a person can make in their lifetime, and I've seen what it has done for us in our life, and I can see that it is a golden ticket, so to speak, in a lot of people's lives. Buying a house, and then buying down your debt on that house really does make a difference in the way that a person can live their life from day to day and how well that they can live in general. And I want everyone out there who wants that to be able to achieve it. And I don't think finances should be something that holds a person back from that, because you can buy something inexpensive, you can buy something, conservative, and there are ways that you can get your closing costs for cheaper. There are things that you can negotiate down. You can make sure you're making a good decision when buying that house, that sort of thing. And so that's why I've been doing them. I know they're never going to get 1 million views. I know that they are specific to a person, in a specific time in their life, and so it's probably not going to even, apply to everyone who's subscribed to my channel, but I'm hoping that they'll help someone, because I know how much it's helped us, and I want to be able to help everyone else in that same way. So that's why we also live frugally, is because I'm like, if paying it off early is the difference between having cable or having a nice car with payments, or not having that stuff and living frugally and being able to throw that money toward our debt, then we're going to be closer to making, our house and paying it off sooner. That's why I do videos on that, paying it off sooner, and, the different ways that you can get mortgages and different ways that you can save money over time and whatever. So if that's something that you have as a goal as well, that you can help better make that decision for yourself as well. I don't want to make this video too long. Okay, another thing that growing up in poverty has done is it's made me want to be like an investor and learn how to invest, because then we can get back more residual income, because the more streams of income that you can come up with, the better insulation you have from, a catastrophe in your life. So if you have, one person has 2 jobs, or 2 income streams, I should say, and the other person has 2, and one person loses their job, you still have those other 3 streams of income to fall back on. You see what I'm saying? So having things that you've invested in can help make it to where you're better insulated from, different economic conditions that may occur. It's made me more appreciative, because when I have mostly hand-me-down clothes, or, they're ripped and whatever, the fact that I'm wearing jeans that don't have rips in the knees is pretty nice when they are used to that. The fact that we're able to go out to our car and start it, and it starts right up, is pretty nice, because we've not always had that. So yeah, it's just made me a more appreciative person. It doesn't take a whole lot to make me happy or content. And it's also made us more savvy to find better solutions in life, which is why I, invent things and try and make stuff, because, we've needed that skill in many times. And then the last thing is that it's also made us more compassionate toward the people who maybe are less fortunate, because when I was growing up and I was a kid, I didn't really ask to be born into that situation, and yet there were lots of places around that are able to help. So you can get free clothes, here or there, that give you, free food and whatnot. And so a lot of people like look down on the people who make less money, and they'll, get a job and not want to help people or whatever. But a lot of children who are helped by the different organizations out there, than different nonprofit organizations. And we have one in town where they say that over 50% of the people that they help, I think it's like 55% of the people they help, are children. And so, like I said, they don't ask to be born into that situation, but it really does help them a lot. So we try to be as compassionate toward the people who are less fortunate, because when I look at them, I can totally relate to that. I see that kid who doesn't really have much, and I see that as me a long time ago. So I'm not going to look down on them, and I'm going to try and do what I can to help them, not be some kind of, mean person with a hard heart who doesn't want to, be compassionate. So anyway, there's my background not quickly, on where I came from, why it is I'm so frugal, and why it is that I do what I do. So hopefully that was helpful to you. Thanks for joining me again. We'll see you next time. I'm Frugal Green Girl. Thanks for watching.